Hello everyone, I'm Pastor Don Nordin. I'm the founder and the CEO of Global Ministries Network. Global Ministries Network oversees churches, trains ministers, helps people to have access to resources that they desperately need. We are not a denomination, we are in the truest sense of the word, a ministry network where we connect people and we connect ministries and we connect resources. We do credential ministers and help to oversee churches. If you would like to become a part of Global Ministries Network, we would love to walk with you. There's a link that you can click there that will give you additional information. And if you're looking for a tribe to connect with, we hope that we are that tribe for you. So we look forward to hearing from you, and we would love to have a conversation with you about being a part of Global Ministries Network. God bless you.
Welcome back to our next episode of GMN's podcast, Leadership Blueprint, Foundational Kingdom Strategies for Leading Well. Today we have the honor of having our one, our only, the Dr. Susan Nordin in the house. And so I'm just privileged that you're here.
Thank you. I'm privileged to be here.
Are you excited?
I am.
You a little nervous?
No, I'm going to tell you everything you want to know.
Ooh. What do we want to know about? So, kind of been preparing for this and thinking about just having this conversation with you. What really began to highlight to me about you is how from, 18, 19-year-old young girl getting thrown into ministry, following Donna Nordin through all this. You've probably seen it all. And so, walk me through, because now, you are kind of the prophetic leading voice for CT Nation, that you are usually the one to kind of set the tone, the direction annually for where we're going, or what you feel like God is leading us in, to then also leading our Houston campus for Community Transformation Church. And so walk me through a little bit, maybe those beginning years to where we're at now. What are some of the changes and transitions that you've seen?
Well, me personally, like you said, I started out at 18 years old as a lead pastor's wife of our first church. We were informed that they voted us in. We didn't know we were candidates. We weren't looking for a church. My husband was just an evangelist. He just traveled around and preached services at churches, and we had a little camper that we pulled around and lived in. And in that church, I didn't have a huge role at all. I played the piano for the service, and the piano was one of those old wooden upright pianos that was facing the wall, so my back was to the crowd the whole time. Oh, wow. And I was so introverted and so shy and so insecure, all kinds of insecurities. And I would sing specials, but I would sit with my back to the wall when I would sing, my back to the crowd when I would do those songs. And so that was my early beginnings. And to see where I am now, it feels like a whole different solar system from where I started, because I am leading a campus, and I never would have guessed at 18 years old on that piano, wouldn't even turn around and face the people. And they offered to turn it around, and I was like, no, don't turn it around. I was just terrified. Yeah. And so I think even people that knew me back then are surprised to see what I'm doing now versus who they knew me to be way back then.
So even growing up, maybe before getting married with Don Nordin, was church something that you wanted to go to, be a part of, or was it just something that your family did and you kind of got drug along through the process?
I never felt drug along to church. Church is all I've ever known. My grandparents were my mom's side of the family. They were my babysitters. My parents worked out of town, and so during the week I stayed with my grandparents, and they lived in a parsonage. They pastored a church in Arkansas, and the church provided the home for them to live in, which was next door to the church. So I grew up, and church is all I've ever known. My whole life, I've never done anything else but church, and I've never felt like I can't wait till I get 18 or 21 so I can get out of this world.
Yeah.
Never had that thought. I've always loved church. My grandparents just fostered that in me, and my parents as well. They still are very dedicated to church attendance and that sort of thing. And so I've always just been in that culture and in that environment, and it's just always been a part of me. I've never wished for anything else.
So we kind of set it up where, you were the lead pastor's wife, which they probably didn't even use that terminology back then.
You're just a pastor.
Yeah, and then then somewhere it probably graduated into the first lady.
I've been called that.
That's cringe.
It's just all kinds of different terms.
Little PSA out there: if you're calling your pastor's wife the first lady, let's just stop that now. Okay.
It has to do with culture.
Oh yeah.
Church culture.
And so, but how have you seen even your role as the pastor's wife, maybe even a term that would be considered more respectful as the first lady, to where you're at now? I mean, what are some of the highlights of that transition that you've seen even in your role?
So what brought me out of that shy, just hide behind that big piano, I don't want to face anybody, I'm so introverted and just couldn't even have comfortable conversations. I have to give all the credit, of course, to Jesus, but my husband, he constantly drew me out of that shell, and he saw the potential in me that nobody else saw. And so he called it out, and he would celebrate me from the stage or the pulpit, and he would recognize things that he knew I could do and believed I could do that I didn't believe in myself. And over time, that built confidence in me to step out and try more things. And so I started out leading the teenage group age. I started leading a Sunday school class where I taught the young adults or teenagers, high schoolers. And I loved it. And to this day, I love that age, because you can shape them so well. And so that's where I started out. And then I led a women's ministry, and then he would ask me to speak on Sundays for Mother's Day, and I would just be so sick at my stomach when I had to do that, but I would try it. And so I'd study all year for one sermon and knock it out of the park. But if you can study for a year for one sermon, you should knock it out of the park. And so everybody would tease him about, you should let her preach more. She always preaches good. But he's like, yeah, but she's only having to preach one time a year. And she's got all that time to study. So that was just a big joke and a big thing we laughed about. But it was totally Don Nordin that brought me out of my shell, helped me to develop confidence in myself, and he recognized the gifts that I carry and has always championed me that you can do this.
Yeah. So it's interesting, even you talking about that, like teaching the first Sunday school classes for the young adults, and just how seeing even now, we were just talking about last night, how you're doing this kind of walk through the Word on Wednesday nights, where you're digging into the depths of the Scripture and the original language, and just really how much is just wrapped up into even the written words of Hebrew, and just how you've been doing this for, almost day one, right? In some regard.
Yeah, I can remember. I love to, when I help people figure out their purpose, I love to help them connect the dots. And when I figured out mine, I remember as young as maybe 12 years old, I would sit by this an older lady in my grandfather's church that I grew up in that I talked about earlier. I would sit by her. She was beautiful. I just loved her. I thought she was just this most gorgeous lady. She was stylish, and I just wanted to be like her. So I would sit by her at church, and I remember opening up my Bible and finding this really unique passage of Scripture, and I pointed it out to her. And I said, "Did you see this? That the word says this?" And she was like, "Oh my word, I've never seen that before." And so now that I'm on this far down and know what I'm passionate about and how I love to dig into the word and find treasures and unique things that you miss if you just read it, just real quickly, I can go back to that moment and say, I see how God was working that in me to be a passion that I carry.
Yeah.
And literally, my class on Wednesday night, I told them last night, I said, this is my favorite thing that I do. When I got home last night from my classes on Wednesday nights, and I told my husband, I said, literally, that's my most favorite thing that I have on my job description, is to get to teach and dig in and find just treasures. But I can trace it all the way back to probably when I was 11 or 12 years old.
But I think the beauty of, finding your purpose or finding, that thing is that your passion and your joy and excitement is going to come out of that. And, as a result, I mean, we have conversations. I know that, there's some people that you start talking about these things and you see their eyes glaze over and it's like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But, you're taking your passion, what God put inside of you, and you're pulling now a group of 30, 40 people on Wednesday nights?
We're up to 45.
45, wow. that are now getting this hunger and excitement for the Word, that are going to be able to dig in even deeper. And so I think that, that finding that purpose, so you can look back and see the dots connected, and you can even find right now, you feel like you're in that river, you're in that flow. What were maybe some of the tough spots in between where you're like, yeah, this ain't it? Like, this is not my purpose. This is not, I'm not loving this. I'm not enjoying this. That kind of, but was also a step in the journey to get you where you're at today.
Well, being a pastor's wife, and especially when you pastor smaller churches, which we did until we came here, and the last church we pastored before this, we had a significant amount of staff that could help us carry the load. But up until then, we were the ones. We cleaned the church, we mowed the grass, we prepared to preach, I led the worship. It was me and Don Nordin doing everything. We had no team, we had no staff to carry it. And so in that process, I had to take on different roles in a church. And I just remember, for the most part, how miserable I was, and thinking, this is not what I want to do. But what is it that I want to do? And so it sent me on this self-discovery of figuring out what am I here for? And I wanted to serve and help my husband, but I knew I was miserable leading some of the things that got on my plate as you're the pastor's wife. You're supposed to lead this area. And I've had those comments made to my face from church members. Well, you're the pastor's wife, and the last pastor's wife did this, so you got to do it. And I would step in and take it over because that was the expectation of the people, but I was miserable. So it sent me on that journey of, what am I supposed to be doing?
I can appreciate that because I find myself more along the lines of, this is put in front of me, you just got to suck it up, you got to do it. And so that was it, that like being miserable or just not enjoying that was really what you were like, I got to figure this out?
Yes, that's what triggered it all. And I'm not saying that there aren't times when I do have to step in and do things that don't fit into my purpose. There are going to be those moments in everybody's life where you got to step up and help somebody out and serve. But That is what being thrown into those roles and just left in them with no way out sent me on that journey of, I got to figure out why I'm here and what I'm supposed to be really doing for the kingdom.
So with that, when did it begin to transition? So you had your own personal self-discovery, but then you've written a book.
Come on, somebody.
I think we have it here.
Just so happened to have it up here on the shelf.
Look at that. So we have your book, Know Your Why.
Yeah.
Which go to the description, and we'll have a link there for where you can buy this. But what caused you to? Okay, I figured out my why.
Mm-hmm.
I've done my own personal discovery. Now let me help others. Was there any individuals or any certain things, or was it just kind of a general broad thing? Like, I want to help people.
So we've been here 24 years, and the last church we pastored, we were there, I think, 12 years overall. And while I was at the church prior to Community Transformation Church, the pastor's wife that was before us was a very strong, independent, I'm going to do what I'm called to do, and nobody's going to put me in a box as the pastor's wife. You got to carry all this because that's your title. And so she was my model of, I can go into this new season as we step into this church, and I can say no to things. I've never been or felt like I could say no, I'm not doing that. I'll help you find somebody that will do it. And I'm only going to accept things in this church that I want to do. I'm going to go after things and try them and see if I love it. And if I don't, eventually I'll step out and try something else. And that's all I did at that last church. And then I love to read a lot. And so all of these books come out on your purpose and your why and all that. And so I'm reading constantly, but no one in any book I've ever read took you on a journey of putting it into words, And so I was always frustrated after every book of, you have a purpose.
Yeah.
You have one. Okay, what is it?
Yeah.
Tell me what it is. And so that always left me just feeling like it didn't come, the whole cycle and circle of understanding I do have a purpose is not complete until I can verbalize it, put it into words. So we came here, and you gave me a book about your why. It was Simon Sinek. Is that how you say it? And it's actually entitled something similar to this, Find Your Why.
Yeah, he's got a few of them now.
Yeah, and he uses the word why instead of purpose because he said purpose is overused. You handed me that book to read, and he has a process, but his book is written more for corporations and businesses. And so the first thing I did with it is I oversee the Haven as I'm the CEO, the president of that. And so I got with Amber, our executive director, and I said, we have to come up with our why for our business, our ministry. And so we crafted our why based on his process of how to do that. And it was awesome. And he says he has a book, I think, called Start With Why.
Yeah.
And some videos about that. And so I went through his training, and then I asked the Lord to give me a process of how to help people craft their personal, God-given purpose. Why were you born on this planet? And God just started downloading things to me, and I come up with this little pattern of things. It's actually questions that I ask the individual, and out of that, everybody's purpose is formed. And it's mind-blowing. It's life-changing. I've had grown men sit in my office and cry like babies. Couldn't even move past the moment. They just had to take a pause. I had one guy tell me, I've been to 3 or 4 psychologists and counselors. They would see me once, and say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Don't make another appointment to come back. And he used this term, and this is where I've started using it. He said, today you connected all the dots for me.
Wow.
And that's what it is. It's connecting the dots. Me going all the way back to a 10 and 11-year-old girl. When I did Pastor Don's, he could go back to when he was 3 years old.
Yeah.
And all the dots, you can see God forming it and shaping it in you.
Well, the statement that you helped me form is, I pioneer to help others find joy in doing what they were created to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I can always look back and in some, whether it's sports or whatever it is, I'm finding that person that's kind of like on the side, on the fringe, on the bubble, and I'm usually grabbing them and pulling them into like, hey, come on, let's go do this. It's going to be fun, or you're going to be great at this. And so, you know, what Simon Sinek talks about, and no, you talk about, but in the business world is usually we start with our what.
Yes.
We always start with our what.
How
what
good
do
the product is,
Yeah.
what all it will do to perform.
But we do the same thing as individuals. Oh, what do you do for a living?
Yeah.
And so then what we do ends up defining who we are. Oh, you're a pastor's wife?
So I don't even answer that question that way anymore.
How do you answer it?
I say, I'm a life coach and I help people find their purpose. Well, you want to know about that, right?
Yeah.
Versus, I'm a pastor's wife, or I'm a pastor of a church. Oh, they don't need to know anymore else. They know what a pastor is. But if I can help you find your why that you're on this earth,
Oh, yeah.
I've really thought about just going to a Starbucks or a coffee shop or something and just putting a sign that says, I can help you find your why, and just see who would sit down at the table. I would love to try that.
Okay,
I should try
when,
that.
When are you going to do it?
I would just love to see who would read the sign and say, bro,
Yeah.
you can do this? I want to know this. I think it would happen.
It would 100% it would happen.
I remember you telling me about a training you went to for real estate, and they were doing a class about kind of along these lines, about how you're gifted and why you do what you do. And I don't know if they called it purpose or anything. But I remember you saying everybody was like leaning up and leaning into every conversation because people want to know, why was I even born? Sometimes even through tragic circumstances that people are born, painful trauma, all kinds of negative things. But it doesn't matter how you got here. It's why God said, I want you in the earth.
So I think there's another thing I want to make sure we get to, but before we do that, so hopefully I'm not giving away any of the process, but probably the most impactful thing that you did through that process of creating my purpose statement, finding my why, all of that, was you had a coffee filter.
Yes.
And you said everything needs to be filtered through this. So if it doesn't fit into you pioneering to help someone find joy in doing what they're created to do, then you need to consider pushing that to the side.
Right.
Now, here recently I've been unpacking some things and realized, like, we were at a service we were at a conference in Oklahoma, and the preacher preached a message about you got to have a yes in your pocket. And it was like, oh man, how much am I saying no? Am I saying no and limiting what God will do in my life? And so that's also kind of how I was raised. Like, we say yes, and you just figure things out. But really, you actually are very good at putting up boundaries.
Yes.
It's a joke in the family, or but hey, if it's her day off or whatever, like, she's going in her
Don't
dungeon
knock on that door.
and leave her alone. But I'm finding more and more that really our no's can be as important or more important than our willingness to even say yes.
Absolutely.
Because how many things do we say yes to that end up maybe wasting time, or we're not really living up to our full effectiveness, because now we're just killing time. Whereas if you say yes to the right thing, then who knows what can happen.
So when I was growing up in this world of pastoring at 18 years old and up till this prior church that we were at, where that former pastor's wife really influenced me to just step up, and you can say no. I was doing that. I didn't know how to say no. I was intimidated to say no. I felt like I couldn't say no. And now that I know what my purpose is, and it's like that coffee filter catches everything that you don't want in your cup.
Yeah.
It will ruin your coffee if all of that gets in there. And that filter, when you process everything that comes to you that you have to say yes or no to, and you process it through your purpose statement, it gives you the authority and the power to say, if I say yes to that, I'm going to be miserable. You're going to be miserable. I'm going to get out of my lane and into somebody else's lane, and that's just going to cause a wreck. And so it is required, I believe, it's required of you to say no to anything that doesn't fit in your purpose. I think you are being outside of the will of God for your time on earth. You're using up time that should be used for why He sent you here. And so your yes has to be filtered through that purpose statement that I help people craft. And it's given me the authority and the power. I know who I am. I would not accept anything that I felt like was outside of my purpose. I would be adamant about saying no and be confident to say no.
I think that's one of the funny things about it is as you become confident in yourself, who you are, all that, and you start to put up those boundaries, it can tend to make other people feel uncomfortable, right? They're like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're not going to do that, or you can, or you won't? And I find it funny. And so I think about, and it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago now, I think we were in Waco, we were in a car, Larissa put on a podcast for us to listen to, and she sent it to you to listen to, but the lady in the podcast made a comment that she said, church staff is the least pastored people inside the church. And I know that just struck a nerve with you. And so coupled with know your why and all the different things, I see how you have shifted really of how we can only speak for Houston campus, but how you are leading the staff in this area. And so give me some insight on what happened that caused you to shift and change from traditionally being more like a CEO, a pastor, a lead pastor is going to be more like a CEO and giving employees directives to accomplish the goal of having a service on Sunday, to where you really have begun to focus on leading your staff well. So give me a little insight on that.
Well, that text that she sent me that said that just changed everything for me, and it really helped me to restructure how I would lead as a campus pastor. And it is very different than a typical pastor normally in the major part of churches lead. My middle name is Grow. I want to see people grow. I have prayed as the campus pastor here that God would send us hungry people. And there's a guy that I love his training, his teaching, Paul Manwaring, and he made a statement one time at a conference that I was at where he was speaking, and he said, most people focus on growing a big church. He said, but if you'll focus on growing big people, you'll have a big church. And I was like blown away by that comment, because that is my passion, is to grow people. I want to see them discipled. That's my jam, discipleship. You can get somebody to preach on Sundays, but give me that small Bible study group where nobody's forced to come. It's just, hey, I'm doing this. If you want to come to the class, come and attend and see what you think. Nobody's forced to be there, but the hungry people show up. That is I could do that. I never get tired doing that. Yeah. It doesn't feel like work. And so when Larissa sent me that text, I thought, that's how I'm going to lead as a campus pastor. So I have decided to pastor my staff, and then through my staff, pastor the church. And if I can make sure they're healthy and they're growing and they're being poured into and they're being developed, then it will be an outflow into my church congregation and people that call this their family, their chosen family. And I'm seeing it happen. So I believe that most staff teams on most churches are just saying, they're just given this job assignment, and they're like, here, you're the youth pastor, you're the worship pastor, you're the media pastor, go do your job. Mm-hmm. And nobody ever goes checks on them, nobody knows if their family's okay, unless a crisis happens. Right. And so I just determined, if I'm going to step into this role as campus pastor, I'm going to make sure my staff is healthy. I call them out, I correct them, I lead them, and I just point to them. This is an area that you need to work on and you can grow in. And every time I've done that, they've accepted it. They don't take it as an attack. Yeah, they're like, oh, she really cares about this part of my life, and she sees areas that I can step up and I can develop more in this way. So I've loved leading that way. I think it's been very successful, and I would encourage other pastors to think about adopting that.
Yeah, that's why I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, I think we really need to key in on that, because currently the audience of this podcast is a lot of people that are in vocational ministry and all that. So for the pastors out there leading a church, what is something that you could say or challenge them in to give them the courage to maybe shift? Because how I process what you're saying is, you as the campus pastor, the lead pastor, you're shifting the focus really from the masses to the individuals closest to you.
Right.
So from a traditional church standpoint, there could probably be some contention or issues with, well, you need to be focusing more on the sheep or the people in the church rather than these people, and they're supposed to be standing alongside you or whatever to accomplish the goal of taking care of the congregation. And so, I don't know, what's something you could maybe challenge that you've taken on that core idea of leadership to say, this is how I'm going to lead?
I would encourage pastors to carve out time to readjust their schedule to some way. Just pick a day, and you can start with doing a book with your staff. And I have a couple I'd highly recommend, but one of them is for sure the 15 Laws of Invaluable Growth by John Maxwell. Really, any of his books are amazing to use. And so we're doing that with our staff right now. And what I did is I assigned a chapter to every staff member where I'm not doing the leading on everyone. I started the book, but then I'm asking them, you come to the table with your perspective on this chapter. And then I always encourage takeaways and activations. And so I pair all of my staff up in teams of two. For some have three, but teams of two, to where they hold each other accountable for whatever was brought out in the lesson. And then I have a lady, Miss Sherry Jones, that comes in, and she's a life coach, and she's coaching my team in their personality style and how they lead, what their weaknesses are and what their strengths. And it has brought the most incredible understanding to our team. We understand each other, and we even call each other by our element. Oh, well, they're fire. Well, she's earth. And, we make funny comments and jokes about it, but I've been just blown away at the transformation that I've seen in my team. And I would encourage pastors just to find a book where you can spend time with your staff and develop them and see them grow. I have one staff member that's single. He's about to get married. And so when there's situations like that, I told him, I said, I want you, he told me I said he had to, but I don't remember saying that. I want you to go through our marriage counseling that we have here at our church. And they just completed it. And he told me, Pastor Susan, that was the most amazing.
Yeah.
But what I was trying to do was, I was seeing you need this to set you up for success in your marriage. And so that's what a leader should do for any team that you have. You should see, oh, they're about to get married, or oh, their marriage is struggling, or oh, they need help financially. You have to go to those moments and help them in their struggle, and be creative with how you can just pour into them and grow them, and help them discover ways to grow.
So traditionally, and this isn't even inside the church, this is even in business, all that.
Yep.
You said it earlier, like there's a crisis.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, let's just keep everything going. Oh, there's a crisis. Oh, now let's pour all the resources all the time and everything. But if we take these measures prior, there's still going to be some issues that rise up because that's life.
Mm-hmm.
But you can really alleviate a lot of those crisis issues down the road, right?
Mm-hmm. As a leader, I feel like I'm responsible to know how to help them when the crisis happens. Know where to recommend them to go, to refer them to a counselor, to a life coach, to a marriage coach, whatever the situation might be. I feel like it's my responsibility. And too many times in the past, when we had churches are bad about this. When you have a staff that has a crisis, then they're just let go.
Yeah.
And nothing gets repaired, and nothing gets fixed, and nothing gets healthy. So that person carries this trauma or this crisis or this wound into their next assignment, and it's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I can't let that. Of course, my middle name is Grow.
Yeah.
So I want to see that you're getting the help and the referrals and the counseling and the prayers and the support from me as your leader to make sure that you can come through this and you can find freedom, you can find breakthrough, you can find answers, you can find solutions. And I try to use my network of people that we have built over these years. I know people for pretty much any kind of situation. And if I don't, Don Nordin does.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can't just sit on my hands when there's a crisis, when I know people that could help them or advise them.
Right.
And so as a leader, I think you have to lead well in those crisis moments, not just in the good times.
Right. But all of this other pre-work is going to reduce
Yes,
the major events.
absolutely.
Which in turn is going to, circle back around and help the church be healthier, because
Yes.
they're going to lead from a healthier place.
Yes.
And I think just to, package all that together, like, so whenever you're helping a staff know their why, know their purpose, you're, with Sherry Jones, it's the elements, so you can somewhat formulate some of those back into the DISC profile, which
Right.
which some
There's
people are more
several
familiar
out there.
with. But helping people understand their makeup,
Yeah.
you start being able to put people in the right spot, or the right seat on the bus is another term that are, hey, we got this bus is going this way, we got to make sure everybody's in the right spot.
And I think that was my first sign that I knew I wanted to help people find where they fit to serve or lead or open, like be entrepreneurial, whatever. I because of all that past experience of being stuck in something that I hated doing, but I had to do it because there was no one else. And then we would start ministries and we would hand it off to someone and say, now you go do this ministry. And they didn't have any more desire to do that ministry than the man in the moon. And so I kept watching that as we pastored over the years, and I said, we got to quit starting stuff and let people come to us and tell us what's in their heart. And then I always loved the spiritual gifts test and the personality assessment. And we've all over the years, before I ever knew how to do a purpose statement, I would always look at how people were wired. And we used a ministry called the Place Ministry for years as our new members class. And I'm telling you, that helped us find more people where they were passionate to serve. And we had people serving in kids ministry that hated kids.
Yeah.
But they were loyal to the kids pastor. Well, I didn't want that. I wanted to find people that love kids and love our kids pastor too, but love kids. And so we gave them permission. You do not have to serve there anymore because that's not your passion.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. We left gaps. But as we used this discovery tool, we found people that wanted to step in and fill in those gaps.
So it's crazy because, most of the time in the church, we always speak from, we need an usher, we need a children's worker, we need someone to watch the babies and all this stuff. And so it really takes a lot of courage to do that.
We've been so guilty of just finding a warm body and just sticking them in a role. And it's just, I've just refused to do that even now. And it's just I've been on this journey to figure that out. And it's come through helping them know what they're gifted in and what their passion is. We used a ministry called Place Ministry for years, and that had your personality assessment and your spiritual gifts assessment. And at the end of that assessment, it talked about your life experiences and your passions. And so when I would meet with them one-on-one, I would go to the first part was your spiritual gifts, your personality, your abilities, all that. But at the end, it was your life experiences and your passion. I would skip all of this, and I would go to your life experience and your passion. Because whatever you have been experiencing in life, you tend to be passionate about helping people that are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And so that's literally just like a neon sign, like a billboard flashing for people. And maybe people just hadn't connected that dot for themselves, but that always points you to the people that you're going to need to serve. Because of your life experiences, 100% of the time.
Yeah, it just makes me think, because how many times do we have a really good leader, or not a leader, a really good person serving in a certain area?
Right.
They're always there, always on time, doing an amazing job. So then all of a sudden we're like, well, you should actually lead this now.
Right.
And then they just
Yeah.
crumble.
They bomb at it.
Yeah.
You
And
elevate them one level past their
So they burn
competency.
out, they get frustrated, and then we as leaders are oftentimes like, oh, I can't believe that, man.
Yeah.
What's
Can't
wrong with
depend
this
on
guy?
anybody.
But really, we're the ones that blew it.
We blew it.
We put them in a spot they should have never been in.
Exactly.
Because they were thriving.
I've had that experience way too many times. I've had it personally, and I've done that as a pastor.
Yeah.
And I've just discovered I've got to know how people are wired so that I can get them serving in a way that they're passionate, or I can find out what they're passionate about doing and plug them into that. We've had people that are passionate about a crisis pregnancy center, and so I made connections in the community with those people and plugged them in. It was outside of the four walls of the church.
Yeah.
It wasn't, oh, I need you to serve in the nursery, or I need you to serve on the production team. No, your passion was for women in a crisis pregnancy. So I'm going to move you into this place where you can feel like it's 5 o'clock. How did the day fly by? Because you're serving where you're wired to serve.
I really think that kind of gets off another topic, but I think that's where we've stepped into the kingdom message, and there's tons of different definitions of that. But yes, Community Transformation Church Houston is where we come together and meet, but it's okay for you to work on this outside of here, you know, even if it doesn't funnel back into this place.
I have a crazy way that I look at Sundays. It's just a unique way. Unique, not crazy, it's unique. I see Sundays as the day, And I call our auditorium or sanctuary, whichever you prefer, I call it the living room. Just my lingo, my language. And I see it as the day when the family comes together and we celebrate what all God has done this past week.
Yeah.
And then we charge back up, we worship, we pray together, we get filled up with the Word, and we get inspired, and we go out the next week, and we take what we have outside those four walls and pour it out to people that are searching for something. That's how I view my church and my Sundays. It's just a time for the family to get together and let's recharge and celebrate.
And I know of a ton of people within our congregation that are doing that.
Yes, I do too. Makes me so
they
happy.
get out there, they go on Monday and they're just out doing it.
Yeah.
So as we kind of begin to wrap this up, this is Leadership Blueprint. So is there any kind of just mantra, life lesson thing that could be pinned down to a blueprint of how you lead and live your life?
It's so funny because I always struggled in school with learning for some reason. I don't know. It just didn't click. And then when I got out of school, I just devoured just any way I could learn. I don't know. It just clicked somehow. But I would say my mantra is never stop learning. And literally, I think till my last day on this earth, I'll be enrolled in some kind of class or some kind of Bible study or searching for YouTube lessons. I'm about to enroll in Embassy Bible College again for a second doctorate. I just can't get enough. I'm a conference junkie.
Yeah.
I would go to a conference every single night if I could get away with it. I love receiving information and being poured into and learning something that I didn't see on the page before. And so I never stop learning would be mine.
That's good. So we have your book, Know Your Why, and you can go to the Nordins.org. And if somebody was like, this is the first time they're hearing this, and they're like, I want to discover my why, I want to learn my why, is that a process that they could do with you?
Yes, absolutely.
So how would they go about doing that?
So you would go to the Nordins.org, and there's a link on there for you to go through this process. I have, I think, 5 or 6 video teachings on there where I teach the process. And when you get to the end of those video lessons, then you reach out to me and we can Zoom or in person. I'll lead you through the process of the questions that I have formulated that help. To me, I always say this, usually every time. When we meet, it's like dumping a puzzle box out on the table. And I love puzzles, and I see people as puzzles, not in a negative way, but in a discovery way.
Right.
So as we go through those questions that I've formulated, the puzzle pieces just start fitting into place. And then all of a sudden at the end, there you are. And the why is there.
And if you're on the bubble or you're like, whatever, that's hogwash, I want to highlight the story of Don because he's not really one that you're going to pin down and kind of put through a process like this.
He doesn't like details.
So you kind of under the radar took him through it, and I think you were driving back from Arkansas.
Yeah, he was stuck in a vehicle. He couldn't escape.
And you kind of took him through it. And do you remember what his purpose statement, what he kind of came up with? But it was
I innovate so that others can have a legacy impact. How is it in? I innovate
greater
so that others can have a greater legacy impact, I think is how the last part of it goes. But innovate is his verb.
Right.
And boy, is that spot on.
But that was a light bulb moment for him.
I innovate so others can have a greater generational impact.
That's what it was.
Got it. It came.
But that was like a huge light bulb moment for him.
Oh, he was like ready to jump out of the car.
Yeah.
He was like, what?
For someone who never has an issue going after whatever he feels like God has for him
Right.
and all that. So if it was that impactful for someone like Don Nordin, then I think all of us should go through that process.
You should all do it.
And so even with that, ministry has a lot of wins. I'm sure you could go down all the different stories of people that you've walked through this process, but it also takes on some L's. We get some losses in ministry. So tell us a story or something that's happened that maybe at the time it wasn't something you could laugh or even joke about. It was very serious, but now, a few years later, you look back and you're like, that was dumb.
I don't know if I look back on this. Do you want the horse story or the other story? Because I've got two that I've talked to you about.
We got time for both. Let's hear both.
So the most hilarious thing that I'm not a jokester. I'm not a prankster. I don't pull pranks on anybody, but I decided to pull one on Don Nordin. Okay. He does pull pranks on people, but I decided one night, we first moved to Malvern to pastor that church. Hot Springs, Arkansas is just 20 minutes down the road, and they have a horse race track where you can go, you can bet on horses. I mean, that's generally why people go there, is to gamble and bet on horses. And so we had just moved there, and there were two ladies in the church that wanted to take me to lunch one day to get to know me. And so we went to Hot Springs to eat. And so we were just laughing and having a great time, getting to know one another. And we drove by the Oaklawn was the name of it, the horse track. And I said, guys, let's make up a story that y'all took me to the horse races today. And I said, if I go home and tell Pastor this, y'all have to back me up on it. And they're like, let's do it. So that was a Wednesday. So Pastor preached that night at church, and then we go home, and he has already gotten ready for bed, gone to bed. And so I come in to the room, and I said, honey, I need to tell you something that's probably going to really upset you. But I couldn't get out of it. I didn't know how to make it. Yeah, it started getting all antsy. I said, those ladies took me to lunch today? And he said, yes. And I said, well, they also took me to the horse races. And he come flying out of the bed. I mean, he reacted so immediately. It was hilarious. And I'm trying to keep a straight face, but I was all in. And he said, you did what? We're brand new at this church. We don't have a history or a reputation with them. We've got to build that rapport and that reputation with the church. And now I've started it off by going gambling, at this. And I said, I didn't gamble. I said I didn't gamble. I didn't bet on the horses. I just sat there and I watched the pretty little horses run around the track. I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know. We didn't have a cell phone at that time, and I was like, I didn't know how to. They took me, and I just played it all up big. He is walking back and forth in the room. He's hitting the counter, and he's like, oh my word, I'm going to have to resign now. My ministry is destroyed and ruined, and look what you've done. And he's just hitting the counter as he walks by. And so he starts getting dressed, and I'm like, where are you going? He said, I got to go to the church. I got to pray. And I'm like, oh my word, he has really lost it on this one. I let him go get in the car, and he's backing out of the driveway. And I run out there, and I said, Don, it didn't happen. This was a joke. I'm just kidding. And he said, no, you did it. I know you did it because you've always wanted to go to the horse races. And so he didn't believe me for a while, but he didn't go to the church, but he just sat there. And I said, I promise you, it's a joke. We all made this up. We were going to play this trick on you. So the whole story, we were in a denomination organization at that time. This whole story got told all over our network of people that we were in at that time. And so they told it at an executive board meeting. And so pastors started clipping out newspaper articles when the horse races would start. And they would say, go win us some missions money. And it became this huge joke. And people that were around our lives in that day, in that moment, still bring that story up. It lasted quite a while, and it's still funny. It was hilarious how he reacted.
Sleep a wink that night.
No, he didn't. He didn't. He never did go pray, but he almost did. He was going to have to resign on Sunday. So,
which just shows even the progression of where the church was and where it is now.
Yeah.
Where he literally thought he was about to lose his job.
He did. It was a big issue in the circles we were in for you to go anywhere like that and be seen in public in a place like that where something negative for them might happen, but you might not have participated. If I had gone, I wouldn't have bet on a horse or gambled or anything, but I would have just loved to see the horses around. I love horses, but oh my word, that would have been the death of us in that circle we were in. But it was hilarious. That's hilarious. It turned into a big funny story that a lot of preachers got in on.
Yeah. So this next segment you actually didn't know about, so we're springing something on you.
Lord, I hate surprises. No, I hate them.
So this is a would you rather segment. So I'm going to present to you two options, and you got to decide which one would you rather. So, would you rather lead a life group where no one else talks, or lead one where everyone talks over each other at once and you can't gain control of the room?
Oh, the first one, where no one talks. Yeah, I wouldn't want everybody talking to where you couldn't get control of the room. Nothing would get communicated. Right? Am I?
That's just how they're in there?
That's pretty much how it is.
Just staring at you blankly?
No, hopefully not blankly, but listening. Oh, wow.
I would need a nap after that first one.
Yeah.
Both would be
horrible.
Oh,
I wouldn't want to do either one. I would want interaction.
Ooh.
But that would be...
I think I'm breaking out in hives thinking about a room where everyone's just sitting there. I mean,
like zombies.
If you've done any kind of like life group Sunday school, you've had some moments of that either way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's painful.
Yeah.
Oh,
I wouldn't want that. I don't like that.
So that concludes this episode. It's been a great one.
Hope it was helpful to somebody.
I think it is. I think there's some good stuff. I think there's probably going to be some pastors out there that are challenged on how they're leading and how they're going, doing things and proceeding. And hopefully this creates some healthier staff dynamics within some churches as well.
I would love that.
So thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Just remember that every new episode will drop at the first Sunday of every month. So we look forward to seeing you next time.
I want to take a minute and tell you about an annual conference that we host. It's called Empowerment Conference, and it's for pastors and ministry leaders from all over the world that come together to have a time of fellowship and to be refreshed, renewed, and resourced. Not only spiritually, but we give them practical resources to go back and impact their communities and their spheres of influence for the kingdom. This conference happens on the last Tuesday through Thursday of every September every year. There's lots of ways that you can get involved with Empowerment Conference. Maybe you're a pastor or a ministry leader that's looking for somewhere to come and connect with other pastors. You can get involved in that way. We offer scholarships for those who may not be able to afford to travel to a conference. Or maybe you own a business and you're looking for some opportunities to come and network with other businesses and ministry leaders. This is a great opportunity for you to come and have a booth in our vendor area and just have an opportunity to network with other people. So in whatever capacity you're looking to connect with Empowerment Conference, you can head to empowermentconf.com or click the link in the episode description to get more information and even register for this year's conference. We hope to see you there.